Hey guys, I'm setting up a couple things down here. I'll be starting in just a minute. I have quite a lot going on tonight. Alright, hey guys, I've got the giveaway pulled up. The link's in the description if you haven't checked it out yet. Uh, Go ahead and look at that. I'm going to be working on another monitor for just a minute. I'm going to be pulling some stuff up. I'm going to pull some stuff back over here so we can take a look in just a moment. There was quite a bit going on, and if you didn't see the video yesterday, uh, you'll probably not be aware of some of the stuff that we talked about, obviously. So there was quite a bit that happened today, and the correction towards the end of the day had a lot to do with it. I mentioned last night that I thought 7.4 would be impressive if it were to reach there, and I would be amazed if it made 8. And part of that was the reasoning of the top Bollinger Band. Now, this is hard for me to do without looking at the monitor right now, but the top Bollinger Band was being hit, and then also the 50-day moving average was just right above it. So it was going to be really easy to see a rejection there after we went up straight for pretty much, weeks at a time now. Yeah, that's like 2.5 weeks or something like that. We went straight up. Go ahead and pull that chart over here. And lately I've been comparing the S&P with the Bitcoin chart. Just a moment here, we're taking a look at a few more things. Doing a little bit of administrative work on some servers here. Go ahead and zoom in on this to show you all what I was talking about. So if you saw the video yesterday, you saw I was talking about the upper Bollinger Band, and then the next stop would have probably been that 50-day moving average, which I was pretty happy with. I was correct because I did get a short in right at the top thanks to that, and I had a really good day. So hopefully this won't take too long what I'm doing, and I can focus on the charts in just a moment. I need to check to see if the audio is working correctly. Okay, good. There was some stuff I'd been working on with the live stream before. I was hoping that the audio wasn't playing for that. Alright, so this is taking a while to load what I'm doing over here. I'm going to pull up a trade I actually made this afternoon in more traditional markets, and that would be SMDD, which is ProShares Trust Ultra Pro Short Mid Cap 400. And I don't do traditional stuff very often, but I finally got some money in a brokerage account, and I bought some of the SMDD this afternoon at 8.9. Now at the end of the day it was at 9.1, but it's actually up considerably since then, I think it's up to like 9.5 or something, which would be around here, around its 50-day. So I'm kind of expecting a bounce, but even if it doesn't, I do kind of expect it to bounce off of these, the 100 and the 200 there, and mostly because it looks the exact same. If you're looking at the actual S&P chart, you're getting it coming up to resistance there. So yeah, you can see it hit its upper Bollinger Band, and I can see it tapping that a couple more times because these indicators have a little bit more room to go. It just kind of depends on the news that comes out this week, but I fully expect prices to drop again. But we'll see. All right, step 1 is completed over here. Time for step 2. Now, if you all have any questions, just type something into chat. I'll take a look at whatever. We'll be looking at some Pine script here in just a moment. I think that takes care of what I need to do over there. Make sure it doesn't fail. Okay, so hopefully you all are seeing what I was talking about yesterday in the video, where at the end of the day, well, it was probably in the middle of the day actually, where I said that we were probably going to hit the upper Bollinger Band and then hit the 50 and then correct a bit off of that. Now I'm not really sure if we're going to continue coming down immediately or not. There's still a little bit of room up here on the indicators. Nothing really pointing towards an immediate drop, a severe immediate drop here for Bitcoin in my opinion. Now it did look that way all day on the 4-hour chart, and it kind of lined up perfectly with the S&P, which a lot of people have been saying there's the correlation right now with the S&P and Bitcoin, and there has been at times, but the correlation seems to be, well, it seems to be more so correlated on these big moves. When the price is more neutral and sideways, it seems like the correlation isn't quite as strong. You get some more volatile moves with Bitcoin in those times, but yeah, so once the indicator started leaning down on this candle, so you'll notice it's forming a nice smooth top here, which kind of makes me think it's going to bounce back up and we'll get a bearish divergence, a pretty strong one. And I wouldn't consider this a bearish divergence, of course, because you're actually still moving up with your indicators. I'll take a look at that and show you. And I'm not going to be too precise here. See, they're both kind of moving up, and I might mainly focus on that. But what I'm looking for is probably something like this. Let's see, where's the resistance at back here? Yeah, that'd be about right. Around 7.7 or so, forming a bearish divergence on the 4-hour. At least that's what I'm going to hope for. And that would kind of also play in line with that daily idea that I was talking about, where we could get the S&P to kind of crawl back up a bit more, and that might create a bearish divergence on that chart as well. But I think if it happens for Bitcoin, it's either going to wick up to these and reject fairly hard, or it just going to go kind of sideways here and maybe not even get the divergence at all. But that is to be seen. Yep, that work is completed. That's good. Okay, so let's get that taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and drill down into the charts here because I haven't gotten to do this too much lately. So this would be a time where I would look for a quick scalp short approaching the 50 after it hasn't been near it for a while. Although it does seem to have flipped on the minute charts. They're both still kind of high. If I were scalping right now, I would be a little patient and look for a short in the near term. And you can kind of see that if you're also looking at the correlation. This is something that I've noticed today as well. When you're looking for the correlation between the S&P and Bitcoin, you'll notice that on the S&P chart, their moving averages are way off because, of course, they close during certain periods of time. And it kind of throws their whole chart off, even if they are correlated. So you'll notice there's a 200 moving average here, whereas there's nothing really above Bitcoin here. So if the S&P were to have a big move and break down from here, then Bitcoin would likely follow because they've been fairly correlated on these bigger moves. Now on the S&P here, it looks like a very good scalp short in my opinion. And of course not financial advice always, but you know, these indicators are well overdone on the 1 minute. I'd say they're fairly high on the 5 minute as well over there. I'd be looking for a scalp short over there. But I would actually be a little bit more patient and wait, because I like to wait until both time frames reach a moving average. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and pull up the development chart and show you all some of the stuff I've been working on here. Got a lot of great stuff. This was from one of the last few videos that we did. It's a lot of gradient work. Let's get rid of that one. What is this? Oh, I know what that is. I was playing around with creating some custom stop loss code, a trailing stop loss code. That way you could manage the stop loss in either direction. I'm working on that for TradingView. And I made a lot of good progress. I kind of gave up on it because I got tired and I got distracted, honestly. So let's take a look at the other one that I wanted to. That is the RSI multi-time frame callouts. Where is that at? RSI callouts multi-resolution. Now this is the one I'm really excited about. This is the one I've been using for some alerts here lately. Let me switch back to Bitcoin again, because this one, the settings that I've come up with, it work really well on the 5-minute chart for Bitcoin, or at least it did. Yeah, not so well recently, but what we're doing here is, let me pull up the script code for this one too, is what we're doing is we're looking at multiple layers or multiple resolutions at once, and we're simply requiring that all of these RSI values are true. And this is just something you can play around with. It doesn't really matter too much, but I've made it fairly flexible, like I'd like to do with all of my indicators. And you can play around with 4 different RSIs. Now the first one is always enabled, so you can't disable that one, but from then on you can actually disable 2, 3, and 4. And you know that changes the chart around a little bit. But the idea here is you want to catch the top or the bottom on multiple time frames with the RSI as opposed to just one. And so for example, you get overbought or oversold with the RSI on the 1-minute chart, but you know you're in the middle range on the 5-minute or the 15-minute, and it's really kind of no man's land for a trade. So you don't really want to make one out there. So while you're looking for the 1-minute chart to be overbought or oversold, you'll also want to require, say, the 5-minute chart to also be overbought or oversold. And of course we can specify these numbers. So if you're just going to be using these two, then I would probably be a little bit more strict. Settings that I had were pretty lenient on what would qualify, but this is just using 2 time frames. This is just a 1-minute and a 5-minute, and I think those are pretty good, because if you're looking and you're actually following this as it happens, this was a good scalp. Any of these RSI bounces I wouldn't keep for very long personally, and always, this is never financial advice, but with these RSI callouts that I'm doing on the multi-resolution, it seems more often than not that they are quick bounces, and I wouldn't hold them very long. But in the rare instances that it does continue to run up in these multiple time frames, you're either probably going to see a bearish divergence up here. So if you were, starting out with a small position, you could add to your position up here if you were trying to short, or the opposite would be true if you were going long. And that's something that I look out for when I am looking at these RSI callouts here. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was, so if you're looking at this and you're using the multi-resolution callouts and you're thinking, okay, well, how can I possibly filter out the call out here? That would be when you would want to enable the third RSI. And then you're going to have to find some settings to make that work. Yeah, so you could have made it work with the third RSI there, and these all look like very good quick scalps using these settings. Now what I really want to do is I want to go back and I want to create a strategy that will long and short this just to see how effective it actually is. And you'll notice it doesn't make a whole lot of trades. That's because we are working with very small time frames here. And actually I need to be back out on the 1 minute chart. That's another issue here, because if you're using a 1 minute RSI on any of these, then the only RSI that it knows for the 1 minute when you're looking at a 5 minute candle. So obviously there's 5 1 minute candles in a single 5 minute candle. So when you're looking at this candle and you're calculating this with this, the only RSI it sees on the 1 minute time frame is, I believe, the first RSI in the series of 5 within this candle. So you're kind of limited, and I believe once the candle's over, then it uses the last one that I can't really recall right now. All I know is it doesn't really work the way you would want it to when you're looking at these higher resolutions. So let's go back to the 1 minute. And so you see there was a nice scalp long there. If we got anything else. No, let's zoom back and let's disable the third RSI here. Because now that we're on 1 minute, we can afford to get a little bit less strict. So this is another example where I would be looking for a divergence and kind of looking for a scalp here, because we're already very oversold here in the 15s, or in the teens I should say, and then you go back down there, you don't really go much lower either with your RSI, and the price is lower. In fact, the RSI isn't lower at all. Now let's see, where was another one at? Here we go. It found a really good spot here on the 1 minute. That would have been a good quick scalp. And of course, these would be most likely if you're using leverage, because if you're going to scalp something that small of a move, you're probably playing with leverage. And this was a perfect one right here. That one would have been great. And this one was decent if you were slightly patient, but remember what I said earlier with this particular indicator. I've noticed that you probably have to end up closing trades rather quickly, because you are working with such short time frames, such small resolutions, that even if you think you're right on the trade, that there's a very good chance if you don't close out in time that it could go the other way, because what this indicator is trying to do is trying to catch a quick move, and you're not going to have much of a quick move if you're sitting here being patient and you continue to wait until here, you hold it for 50 candles or whatever, and then at that point you feel like you're kind of stuck, and you're going to wait it out and see if you can get a if you can hold out and get in a profitable position, and in some cases you just can't. Whereas in this one, it immediately went down, and in this case, personally, I would have been patient because it rejected pretty hard and it continued to go down minute by minute. I would wait until most likely it hit the middle Bollinger Band here and bounced up, and then probably hit the top band. Let's see if I'm right. Close. It went straight through the middle, and then it came back up to the top band. So if I was watching this live, what I would have looked at is this sharp rejection back down, played it patiently because we know we're out, and if it continues to go up, ideally in my case, what I like to do is I don't like to use my entire trading amount that I would like to use. I'm pretty conservative because I feel pretty confident on these plays, but when they aren't successful, a lot of times they will end up being successful if I add to them one more time and one more time only for a potential divergence. So I was willing in this case most likely to have played it out and waited for it to come down, and then once I started to see it come back up and probably come back through the middle Bollinger Band, that's when I probably would have closed. And you can play around with the settings and try and capture more profit if you want, but realistically, that's probably what would have happened. See if there's any more that are interesting. Okay, so you can see this would be one where I would have considered the divergence and try to add in again. So you probably would have had an entry about right here if you added in on a divergence on a short here, and you probably would have had several candles to take profit. Now if that was enough to cover fees in this case, I'm not entirely sure, but here this is a much better when you only have the one call out and it goes down pretty quickly on that one, and you probably would have got profit immediately. And same goes for this one. This is another one that's kind of like that. And keep in mind, this is also requiring the 5-minute RSI. So that's why I'm a little bit more confident trading 1-minute candles. It's because I'm not actually trading 1-minute candles. I'm trading 1 and 5-minute candles in this scenario. And for me, I like to do this manually because a lot of times these alerts, if you were to set an alert on whenever a call out happens, it would happen one after the other. So for example, I'm not deleting the call outs here like I am with the actual regular one. So if you were to set an alert for these, you would have 4 alerts and you would have bought 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now that would be great if it worked out, but a lot of people don't want that kind of risk. So if you were to want to use this to automate something, in my opinion, what I would do is I would put a delay or a cooldown between the alerts so that you couldn't get one until at least 3 or 4 candles has passed since the last one. Something like that. That way we can make sure that it goes down. And also, if there was one in the last 10 candles that the price is lower, that way we guarantee that it was a divergence, or hope that it was a divergence in that case. So let's see. Yeah, there was another one that would have been a nice quick scalp. Yeah, so that one's really nice. I really like this indicator. It's what I've been using to create some of my alerts. Oh man, let me see if I can pull some of those up. Bot alerts. So I've set up a bot alerts channel in my Discord here where I was playing around with this and some software that I wrote by hand for myself that will automate this stuff. And it also posts this stuff on Twitter. But you'll see that I'm able to grab all this data from the TradingView alert, and then it will actually go and take a screenshot of my chart. And this was me using that chart at the time, and then put a nice watermark on there and send out all of this great information. I think once I get something that I'm fairly comfortable with sharing, then I might add it out there. I don't really care to do 1-minute and 5-minute time frame alerts for something like this, because if people are following that and they're not comfortable trading on those time frames, then I wouldn't want somebody, and even though it says not financial advice, I wouldn't want somebody to do it even by mistake, or just jumping the gun and thinking that they see something that they should do it even though it says you shouldn't. And now it does offer me an option for me to define the resolution on the chart, and here I just said C chart, and that's because we're working with multiple. But if I wanted to, I could tell you what resolution we're working with on the chart, and it would actually show you that here as part of the alert. And this is coming along really well. It works really well on Twitter because it also plays with the hashtag and the dollar tag. I forget what those are called. I don't even know if they have a name, honestly, because I don't use Twitter that much. Well, I use it fairly often. I just don't know what they're called because I don't care. Yeah, but those are pretty cool. I'm hoping to get these kind of fleshed out. I'm hoping to use these RSI callouts, but there's a couple more things I want to get done here. I'm going to look at the code on those. Oh, no, they're probably about right. I might be publishing this soon. There are a few things that I want to do with my code. And one of those things is I want to actually go through and use their coding style guide for Pine coders. They have a styling guide for the code. And I didn't know that when I started the tutorial series that I did, but honestly, the styling guide that they have is a little harder to read for beginners. So I think it worked out really well that I use these big uh, capital letters in the beginning and made these long variable names that people could actually read and understand. And then, of course, the function names and all of the plots and all of this, I think it looks a little bit easier to read in my example than it does in theirs because they're using a whole lot of more styling to it that you probably wouldn't be able to quickly pick up on unless you were a programmer. And of course, the tutorial series was all for people who don't really know how to do that stuff yet. That's why it's a tutorial. Otherwise, if you knew what you were doing, you would probably just look at the documentation or find other examples and copy off of them. But I can also see people looking at the videos for examples as well. So those sorts of people don't really need the code to be styled, but we're going to be working on doing that. I'm going to do a video specifically on the styling. I want to pull up something else. I think there was one more indicator I wanted to look at. Testing. Was it the strategy? I honestly cannot remember what I'm doing here. I've been working with so much different code. Now this is the one. Oh no, this is the code I was working with the trailing stop loss, the custom trailing stop loss, which worked, by the way. So what I need to do is I actually need to figure out how to get the other trailing stop loss to go for me, the short trailing stop. So that shouldn't be too much effort. Now that I've got it done one way, you should be able to flip it and mirror it the other. Okay, I think that's all there is for TradingView right now that I really wanted to go over. Now there's another website that I wanted to look at. Give me just a moment to pull that up over here. To log in as well. Of course, typed it in wrong. Okay, I'm gonna pull this up over here. So the folks from tuned.com got in touch with me and I checked out their product. They gave me access to their alpha. And I want to stress that this is an alpha. This is not something that's ready for people to actually use. This is something they're still actively working on. So if it doesn't look perfect just yet or doesn't function perfect, that's kind of the point. They're trying to figure these things out and make things work the way they need to. But one of the things they pointed out was that they have their own language similar to Pine that has a few points to it that I really enjoy that Pine doesn't have. Now, even though some of these things are possible in Pine that we can do here with their scripting, I think they call it Tune, is that there are more built-in indicators by far over here. And now, obviously, this is an alpha. They have a long way to go to catch up to TradingView, in my opinion. But it's essentially the same looking thing. The chart, honestly, it's using the the TradingView chart, but their own language is how they calculate the indicators that they're using here. It appears so with their script. They have some built-in indicators. Now, I haven't honestly dug in too much into this site, but I did read over their documentation because I was asked to check it out, and I did. And they have tons of built-in indicators. Now, all of these are different functions for different indicators. So you can see the ADX. I'm trying to think of some of these I can know the name of. The ATR, there's average, Bollinger Bands, EMA, whole moving average, Kaufman something moving average. I can't remember that one's name. I just call it Gamma. MACD, MFI built in, momentum indicator built in, on balance volume built in, RSI, SAR built in, SMA. Just think there's any others that really stood out. Ultimate oscillator built in. So they've got a lot of these things built in, and I believe they said it was built on top of the Java framework. It was built on top of the Groovy, powered by Groovy, with a custom API, which is how they do their indicators. Now, how they do that with the TradingView chart, they're probably manipulating the code to where it'll plot the values that they want using the indicator values that they create from the series that you tell it to do. That's just my opinion, but this is what they're using for their code, powered by Groovy. Like I said, I haven't looked at it too much, but it seems kind of interesting because they do allow you to automate your strategies and actually execute on that. I'm going to try and see if I can't find this to show you. So yeah, you can put in your credentials for an exchange, and with their strategies, you can actually trade on these exchanges using their website, which is a nice idea when you're trying to automate what's going on with TradingView. Now, there's a lot of bots out there that actually try and capture the alerts from TradingView and execute trades for you based on that. But it's using TradingView itself and giving you the custom ability that you want and working with it in the browser to where you don't really need to worry about that other software. You can just use this and it'll trade for you based on how you define in the strategy. And I don't know how those other bots work. Honestly, I build my own. So I don't know about auto view or whatever it is that captures the TradingView alerts. I don't know how those work, if they have their own way to monitor your strategy within that bot, but you can manage what's going on from here. Let's see what they had an editor, and yeah, so you can see the script. It looks a lot like Pine script, and they said they designed it to be like that. And you can tell by the documentation why that is. They have a few enhancements on it. You can actually see the color with the color code here. But it is slightly different, especially with the inputs. You define the input by declaring the data type before the input call. Other than that, it's very similar. And of course, you can still do your own custom indicators and all these other calls as well and save that. But I'm going to be looking at this a little bit more. I don't know how much time I can actually devote to it, but I am going to keep up to date with the project. The people who reached out to me and asked me to look at it seemed like really nice people, so I figured I'd take a look at it and at least show you all what I'm looking at, so you all would know it's out there as well. And I'm not doing any affiliate thing with them right now. I'm really curious as to what they're doing over here with this particular project. And if they do affiliates, maybe I'll do that eventually, but I'm not really too worried about that right now. I was mostly interested in seeing how their scripting language worked in comparison with PineScript, considering we're doing PineScript tutorials here. If they pick up a user base, maybe we'll do some tutorials for them as well. Not that I wouldn't continue doing them for TradingView. It's just that I'm trying to build a channel here, so if I can get other views from this one as well, I can take the knowledge I have from TradingView's PineScript and kind of translate that over there, and we can continue to grow the channel with those folks as well, perhaps. So that's interesting to keep an eye on for me. I don't know about you all, but I thought that was pretty neat. And maybe I'll do a video soon where we look at actually doing an indicator side by side in TradingView and here, just kind of seeing how difficult it actually is to translate from one to the other. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'd like to cover right now, because I don't think there is. I've talked about the TA, I've talked about the indicators we're looking forward to, I've talked about the giveaway. So if you weren't here at the beginning of the channel, you can look in the description of the video. The giveaway is up there. The question down here were 10 entries. If you saw my video yesterday, you should know the answer to that. Otherwise, you can go back and look at that to figure out the answer to that. I try and make it to where people who actually watch the videos get those entries. Let's see, there was one other thing. Yeah, let's go back and just look at some more TA. Why not? I'm not in a rush right now. This isn't a video that I normally do where I'm kind of timing myself here. Now, there are some people watching now, so if you all have anything you want to look at, just say something in chat. I'll try and pick up on that and see if there's anything we can look at together. Now, if you weren't watching earlier in the stream, you notice that I'm looking for a potential bullish divergence here, even though I did look for the short today bouncing off the 50-day moving average. I think there's a decent chance we come up for a bullish divergence. Now, this wouldn't be on the daily here. This would be more so on the 4-hour chart. So let's drill back down in there. So you can kind of see what I'm looking at here potentially for a divergence that I would kind of like to pick up on for an actual short, because I think if we get up here to have our divergence, things could possibly still stay bullish, even if it were to dump all the way back down to the 200 on the 4-hour, which would be 6.6, which, everybody wants to go back to 6.6K where we spent, the entire weekend, right? Take a look at a couple of other coins here. Basic attention token. This is one of my favorites just because I'm a huge fan of Brave. So if you haven't noticed, I actually got my hoodie. And I don't know if you can actually see it. I assume you can see it. I got that. That was part of the swag giveaway that I won. And they also gave away this awesome water bottle. It's insulated. And I poured water in it. And I didn't even use ice at noon. And it's still cold. I love this thing. It's really cool. They also gave me a shirt. They gave me a sweater. And then there was also some stickers and stuff. I can show you here. We got some stickers like this. There was also some basic attention token stickers, but there's about 10 each of those. And let's see, there's one other thing. Why can't I remember it? Maybe there wasn't another thing. But yeah, that was awesome. Getting all that stuff. I'm a huge fan of Brave. If you haven't noticed. Oh, the mouse pad, which you would have seen that if you watched the last video. Okay, basic attention token back on the 4-hour. This is, all these charts typically follow Bitcoin, so I don't really care to go into them too much. Everything looks pretty much the exact same here, although the shorter moving averages are a little bit off compared to what they were Bitcoin. Let's go to the daily chart. It's looking pretty much exactly the same, except basic attention token didn't even reach the 50-day. Although the stochastic on this one looks a little bit better, which leads me to believe that maybe that bullish divergence is still in play. Let's see if some other altcoins have this kind of look on the stochastic. That would lead me to think that we might get that bullish bearish divergence. We might get that bearish divergence in the coming days. And if not for Bitcoin, for alts. Let's see. Let's look at Litecoin on the daily chart here. Yeah, so this is the same kind of setup, although it's not looking quite as good on the stochastic for that potential bounce up. There is that room there, and I don't see any reason why it would stop out here on the daily chart. Let's look at the 4-hour and see if there's anything there. I'm not really seeing anything. I think I'm talking myself into believing this bearish divergence is going to happen. But I don't know. I really do think that it's going to happen. I'm talking myself into it. I'm kind of hoping it does because that's a pretty obvious short if you're doing that. Let's look at Ethereum. I haven't been following it, but I heard it had a really great couple of days here. Yeah. Wow. From 143 to 175, up $30. About a day. That's really good. It seems to be gaining quicker than others, although its indicators look pretty much exactly the same as the other ones. And this one, I would say, is probably a strong candidate for the divergence forming just because the RSI just went so high. Where's the daily at here? So this chart's much different than the other ones. Wow, I wish I had looked at this earlier. I would have loved to have shorted this one instead if I had the opportunity to, because it stopped out right at the 200-day moving average around this cluster of moving averages, which whenever that happens, to me it seems like it's going to meet obvious resistance. It's very rare that you have a cluster of moving averages and it goes through them immediately. So just look back here, the 100 and 200 were together. Now it did go through it, but it did bounce on the initial touch. It's pretty common in my opinion that happens. So that one was a little bit different. Let's take a look at Link. Forex wise, you got an idea for an indicator? Yeah, man, just leave a comment or type it out in chat and let's see if we can look at it. Now, if it's really complicated, I probably don't have time for it. My schedule is picking up like crazy. But if it's something simple, we might be able to do it on stream or something, because I like to pick up on stuff you all suggest. We've done several that people have suggested. Link is very different as far as its placement, considering its moving averages. It broke its 200, stopped out at the 100. That actually looks pretty bullish, in my opinion. I like Link. I'm not sure it's going to go straight up, but out of all the ones we've looked at so far, I like this one the most for a potential continued run. Take a look at its 4-hour. Yeah, so this is another good candidate for that divergence, and I'll tell you why. Is because this 200 period moving average is possibly going to act as support. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to happen, but if it bounces off of support here, I think it's likely that you're going to get that bearish divergence. Hey, Computer Tech Tutorials, thank you. That is a nice compliment, man. You're in the PineScript Telegram. Maybe I do not remember what you've posted, man. I don't know. There's so much going on right now. Let me tell you, my day job is insane. This coronavirus stuff has got everyone where I work at doing so much more because we have gotten funds to where we work with and help people with my job that I have to scramble to program these things to help people get that money. And I've had multiple projects at once need help, and it's pretty hectic. But anyway, yeah, on this one, I definitely could see the bounce here off the 200 for Link going up for that potential bearish divergence, because I don't see any reason why it would kind of stall out down here. Now, it might go slowly until it catches up with the mid Bollinger Band, but the Bollinger Band is so far down there, I could see it moving back up pretty quickly too. Oh man, let's think of some more. I've already covered my favorite ones. Cover some crappy ones. No, I'm just kidding. Take a look at Ripple. I like to give Ripple a hard time. I really don't care about any of that drama. Now, this one's pretty interesting. It is similar in that it's touching its mid band. I don't know if all of them are touching their mid bands like that. Yeah, dude, the COVID stuff is crazy. I'm very fortunate. I have a job, and my wife has a job. But there's a lot of people who lost their job, especially around here. And it's so weird thinking all this is going on. I went to Lowe's the other day to get some lumber and building my kids a swing set. And I live in a fairly small town, and it's crazy when there's a bunch of traffic. It never happens that we have a bunch of traffic for the most part, unless there's a wreck, or there's never lines outside of stores. And to see the line wrap around Lowe's all the way to the side of it past their gardening section was pretty insane. Needless to say, we didn't go in. We didn't wait in line next to all the other people who looked like they might have already had it. We actually went back and we got our uh, lumber that we needed for that. We're going to be building them a pretty nice swing set. I should probably talk a little bit more about myself on the channel here eventually. Maybe I'll do a video where I tell you all a bit about myself here, because I've done a lot of these tutorial videos, done some live streams and stuff. Y'all don't really know much about me unless you've really dug into my social media. You might have found out some stuff, or if you went to my website, you might have looked at like my LinkedIn or something. But you all don't know that much about me, other than I write some PineScript stuff every once in a while that you all might like. PineScripters Telegram. Am I in that one? I don't know if I'm in that Telegram, dude. Um, eh, yeah, I don't know if I'm in that Telegram. I'm only in one Telegram for PineScript related stuff, and I'm not sure if it's the right one. I'm guessing no, but I don't know. I don't recognize your screen name from YouTube over to Telegram, so I couldn't tell you for sure. Yeah, it's interesting with the COVID stuff. My wife, she's uh, really cautious about that stuff. She's got like gloves and she wears the mask, and of course I'm supposed to, but I try and keep my distance and stuff. Everyone, I don't want to have to wear that stuff. But she's really cautious about all of that, and she won't even let us order food out right now because she's so cautious about it. And I kind of agree, because some of the people around here uh, that I know who do that kind of stuff, if they were to show up at my house, I know they aren't social distancing and that there's a pretty good chance they're probably around someone who had it, and I would not want them touching my food or being around it to breathe on the boxes even. So is there a way to code a drop-down menu in the inputs tab in an indicator? For instance, having an MA baseline value set for Bitcoin and then different one for Ethereum. Um, I don't know about a drop down, but I mean, you could hard code a function to check the security name and see if you're working with Ethereum or Bitcoin. With the current one, you can use this SIM info, and if you can parse out the symbol that you're working with, I think it gives you the base asset separately. I'm not entirely sure what all the variables are. I should probably pull up the reference manual in just a moment. Let's see, sim info. See, the prefix, that is the exchange, I believe. Root, what is that? Some of their stuff in their reference manual doesn't really read the easiest. Ticker. Now the ticker, if you're going to hard code it, would be BTC USD. They don't have string functions, which is something I'd really like to see more of in Pine, is more string functions, so we can do substrings and we can do stuff like this. Now, if you were to create the indicator to where you use the options, like, for example, our one that we did in the tutorial series, where we had the options here, if you were to manually have yourself set it to Bitcoin or Ethereum here and switch it every time you change the charts, then you could do that easily with the function. You just look at the input value like we did down here and we toss out the correct value. But as far as it being dynamic, I gotta think on that one. I would love to see the string functions to help with that though, because there's been several times I like to work with CSVs, because I find those to be easier to work with, even more easier than JSON objects. I don't really care for the brackets so much, but I like to work with CSVs, and parsing out data from a CSV is a lot easier to me, especially with a language like this where you don't have those built-in tools to do that stuff. Hey man, I'm not seeing that Telegram. I don't think I'm in that one. If you want, you can go to the Discord or my Twitter, and you can actually send me the link to it, and I'll check it out. And yeah, I'll get back to you on it. Or if you can copy and paste it whenever you get time, you can send it to me on social media somewhere. But yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'm in that Telegram, man. Yeah, so I think what you're talking about for that input dropdown would probably work the way I described it. You replace these options like what we have in the tutorial series here. You would set your title to your whole length, or whatever you want to call your whole variable. Set your default value to the string, like Bitcoin or BTC or ETH, and then you have your options set to where you have BTC and ETH. Those would be the only two. And then you have your function, and you don't even have to pass a parameter into it. You can just check to see if your input says it was BTC or if it was Ethereum, and then you just return a hard-coded value that you have set. Yeah, and of course you could also do the Boolean input to where you could do the checkbox. I mean, it would work the same way, except instead of looking for the string BTC, you would just have to know that if it was checked, I mean, you'd have to call it, is this BTC, and have it checked by default, and then it would know it was true, and then you would return your Bitcoin value, whatever that one was. And then if it wasn't true, you would know that you weren't on the Bitcoin chart, and in your case, you would know you were on your Ethereum chart. But yeah, it'll work for you if you do it like that. Hey, no problem, man. The only thing I ask from you all to share these videos. No, I'm just kidding. If you all like them, that helps a lot, and just watching them helps a lot. I'm really trying to get back up to the monetization status. Hey, thanks, man. We're gonna be going to look into their styling guide, so I'm gonna try and make things look like the way that they recommend. I'll go ahead and show you that right now. I've been working with Pine Coders some. They have some really great resources, and I actually use them in one of my recent videos for the gradient fill. They have a lot of great code. There's a lot of great people in the group who have a lot of great code that I know a lot of people on here think I'm incredible, but when I look at their code, it's like I'm obviously not smarter than they are. There's people who have, obviously studied data science, and they are making some crazy code, which is really good. But yeah, these are their styling guides. We're going to go over this in a video, but it's going to end up looking like those. Let me see if I can't pull up their actual code here. Oh, how can I do this? I'll just go to my profile first and search for theirs. Ooh, I can go to following. I don't follow very many people. Ooh, they came out with a new one? That is new. I like this. But you can see they have a lot of code out here, a lot of scripts. Yeah, that looks really nice. I like that. What did they do differently? Oh yeah, I'm kind of getting off subject here. Oh, cool. There's just some more customizations. Yeah, but you can see they have a pretty well-defined style guideline here. Looks like these are constants, functions, f underscore, and they have things in a certain order. So you have your inputs, and then your functions, and then your calculations, and then your plots, and then your strategy calls and some other stuff. But that's going to be really interesting. I really like the work that they've done. Their gradients look a lot better than the one that I did, which I wonder if I can get it back to that one actually. Their gradients look really, really good compared to the ones that I did, but that's because I didn't want to copy their code. If I copied their code, I could have made it look nice like theirs. Yeah, here we go. I mean, it's decent, but just the way mine works is entirely different than theirs. Yeah, man, I think that's all for now. I'm going to try and set up another live stream Friday, on Good Friday in the afternoon when I have some time off to do this. Let's see if I can't do some more live streams around here, because I really appreciate that you all have actually gotten involved on this one. If you all can come check out the other ones, I really appreciate that. Like I said, we're trying to get the watch time up here to get back into the monetization status. That way I can actually grow the channel. I want these giveaways to not be coming entirely out of my pocket eventually, and to make those bigger so that we can continue to grow this and share and help other people. That's what it's all about. And if you've seen the mission for Big Bits, you'll know that it's all about education, awareness of crypto, and just pretty much everything we've been doing. Software just told me I was disconnected. I'm reconnected. But, oh, okay, it's going in and out. Yeah, man. With the watch time, what happened was I used to have a decent channel. I had 1,400 subscribers, and my channel was growing really quick. But some stuff came up. I had a lot of health issues. My wife had some health issues, and I just quit, and I deleted all my videos because I just decided to rebrand everything. I didn't like my logo. I didn't like some of the stuff I was doing in the videos. It's not that it wasn't good content. It was just that I didn't want to do that stuff anymore. So I just started over. And it's very nice. that I've been able to get back to where I am already. I had I never figured I'd be able to get 400 subs in a couple of months, really, because it was a long grind to get what I did before, and to get here to 400, that's like what, a third almost, like 2/5 maybe of what I had before, and I got it in a couple of months where the other ones took me years. Yeah, I've got plenty of subs. I just need the watch time. Okay, yeah, my wife is probably wanting me to come upstairs and see her. So I appreciate you all watching. I am actually gonna quit this time. But if you all have anything that you want to see, just leave comments or whatever. Uh, Definitely reach out to me on Discord or Twitter, and I'll get back to you most of the time. Like I said, I'm really busy, so if you're asking for help, it's going to be hard for me to help you right now, unless we're doing one of these live streams or something. But thanks, man. Y'all have a nice day.